the main street of Portugal. At ang una kong hinahanap ay ang Starbucks. Kasi I want to buy a mug. Kasi collection ko po yan sa lahat ng travels ko. Kaya I am so happy nahanap ko kagad ang Starbucks. I have bought my Lisbon Portugal mug collection. This is part of my travel collection. And so, let's find more for souvenirs. Maghahanap naman ako ngayon ng souvenir shop where I can buy ref magnet, plates, a keychain, and whatever is good to bring home. This is the place outside the restaurant where we had our lunch. And after this, pupunta na po tayo for more city tour. Let's go!
So, it became known as the Philippine dynasty that ruled over Portugal. All three kings of Spain were named Philip. And then, on the 1st of December of 1640, there was an uprising by the people and also the low bourgeoisie against the Philippine dynasty. The traitor Michael of Vasconcelos, Miguel de Vasconcelos, he was a Portuguese guy. He was like a governor of Portugal, was a Portuguese man, but he defended the interests of Castile. So he was thrown from a window. Do you remember the Pink Palace where we were, where the bus was parked right now? He was thrown from the window, and the people fell upon him. They killed him, and then the Independence War started. They lasted 25 years, and on the sides of that obelisk in the center of the square where we were right now were two great naval powers. And the Independence War lasted 25 years. They ended in 1665, and then John IV rose to the Portuguese throne, and ever since has managed to remain independent from Spain. We usually have a saying in Portugal: we have the oldest border conflicts with Spain, and sometimes there would be Spanish rule over Portugal. It was also the case in the 14th century, and then the second dynasty of Portugal began. So the Philippine dynasty of the Spanish kings ruling over Portugal was the third dynasty that we had. In total, we only had 4 dynasties. So the Spanish dynasty was the third. For example, despite the proximity to Spain, the largest foreign community that we have living in Portugal, family ties between Portugal and Spain. Usually the Portuguese don't marry the Spanish. There's very few family connections. The second largest community living in Portugal is from Angola. It used to be a Portuguese colony, and the Angolans are the second largest community. Then I would say during the 90s and until the financial crisis of 2008, 2013, when Lehman Brothers went bankrupt, etc., the problems with Greece, until 2008, the third largest community that we want to seek better working conditions, better life, and in many cases they had more qualifications than the Portuguese themselves. The Ukrainians are very good in the science. We have a large Filipino community living in Portugal. However, there was a phenomenon, I'm not saying if it's good or bad, it just happened, that the people who worked on the cruise ships in Europe, for example in the machine room, dealing with the engines and stuff, it used to be Portuguese, but they were replaced by the Filipinos in the cruise ships and also in oil tankers. The crew Portuguese, but nowadays it's mostly Filipinos. Yes, India was a coastline. Do you know the town of Calicut? Calicut was part of the dowry that of the marriage between Catherine of Braganza, the Portuguese queen, and Charles II of England. So the Portuguese we gave Calicut to the British, and then I would say very slowly the British started taking over India, and we started leaving. We had Portuguese settlements in Goa, then in Damam, Diu, and there was another town, I can't remember right now, but essentially 3 or 4 cities. If you look to the right, you'll be able to see your hotel once again. It's this building right next to the Ritz. It's the hotel where you'll be staying. So I would say we also have a statue of Magellan in Portugal. If you Google it, it's on the. However, the Portuguese king made a historical mistake. He didn't sponsor the expedition. And then this is the funny thing: when the vice captain of Magellan arrived once again in Spain, it was the day before, which proves that the Earth is round. So it's a funny thing. From India, we brought over the spices. All those spices used to come through the Silk Route. However, when we brought the spices over to Portugal with the caravels, we lowered the prices and we interrupted the monopoly of cities like Venezia and Genoa in Italy by bringing over the spices directly to Europe. The spices were not only a luxury product for seasoning the food, they were also used to preserve the food, so it was an important product that we brought. We also brought over semi-precious stones like rubies, sapphires, emeralds, and we also brought over objects in ivory from India, and also the cultural aspects. For example, there at a certain point during Portuguese history, it was customary for the kings of Portugal to let themselves be transported by elephants, and this fashion was brought over from India to Portugal. Then we're going to pass the Portuguese Football Federation. We're going to see it on the right hand side. Then inside we've got the only synagogue that exists in Lisbon. We're going to see it on the left. I'll point it out to you. You have the Portuguese Football Federation. Yay, Ronaldo. Then it's like we've got the synagogue here on the left. It's this building here. You can see the inscriptions in Hebrew on this. We're going to pass the headquarters of the Socialist Party. It's right here on the right hand side, painted pink. It's the Socialist Party headquarters. And then we're going to make a left, but if you look to the right, up, you'll be able to see the end point of the Lisbon Aqueduct. The cistern, like the reservoir for the water of the Lisbon Aqueduct, is right here on the right hand side, a bit behind us. You can see it there, and also a part of the structure of the aqueduct here to the right, a bit behind us. Then we're going to pass the statue of Pedro Álvares Cabral, the sailor who discovered Brazil in the year 1500. The discovery of Brazil Brazil was actually an accident because back in those days, the currents in the Atlantic, well, the goal of the Portuguese king and sailors was not to reach and they go all the way almost to Brazil. So when Pedro Alves Cabral saw land, he was completely surprised, and so they discovered Brazil in 1500. However, the Tordesillas Treaty had been signed between Portugal and Spain in 1494. So it's possible that both countries already had information about the existence of America, of Brazil, due to some preliminary expeditions. Expressions that we use, because the vocabulary and the grammar, they're practically the same. It's only the accent that changes, and it's two very different cultures. But of course, here to the left we have the Garden of Estrela, and we're going to see on the left hand side the Star Basilica de Estrela. If you look here to the left in front of us, you can see the basilica built by the and then here to the left hand side you have a military hospital. Here to the left, this big building. Also to the right, it's part of the military hospital. And I would say these buildings used to be the convent for the nuns, the order of the Immaculate Heart, that belonged to the Star Basilica sisters. The religious orders were expelled from the monasteries, and the assets were seized by the government, and the feminine orders were allowed to stay until the death of the last nun. However, they could not accept new members, and then the state would confiscate the monasteries and the convents after 1834. So even the Portuguese Parliament is used to be a Benedict. Right here, the Museum for Art, Architecture and Technology, here to the left, like all the people standing on top of the building. Also on the left, this building that resembles a factory. It used to be a glass factory, but nowadays it's the Electricity Museum. It's mostly sought for by school classes and students to learn how electricity functions. And there are some spectacular demonstrations of how electricity functions. You can see the electricity beams and stuff. On the hand side, you'll be able to see the Hieronymites Monastery, dating back to the beginning of the 16th century. Hieronymites Monastery on the right. Behind the monastery, you can see the lighting towers of the football stadium. It's in the first league, but they never won anything. Then on the right, you have the modern art exhibit. You see this modern building here on the right. There are even Picassos inside this collection. It's only drawings made with a crayon, black and white. But there are also paintings by Juan Miró. And the total net worth of this collection is 1 billion euros. Then on the left you have the best spa, 5-star hotel. Also to the left you have the yacht harbor. Some people actually live here on the boats. The rent is cheaper than renting an apartment. And so we're almost at the tower, okay? And the tower is going to be, we're going to enter. The other group is also here. And like, if you look to the left, behind the trees, you can see those white and red houses. That's the bathrooms, okay?
So where you wanna go? Me? Obsessed with you? Yes.
also the year when the colonial war started in Africa, and it was designed to resuscitate the nationalistic values, the pride of the Lusitanian race, the Portuguese, the old Celtic tribes that lived in the Iberian Peninsula. And so 1960 was the year when the war in Africa started. So the dictator built this monument to honor the heroes of the time of the dictatorship, like, for example, the sailors, the priests that tried to evangelize the new territories, to the meaning of drawing the new inhabitants and the territories that we discovered, like the person who kept the chronicles, the task of writing everything down, but was probably the only person who could read or write on board of the ship.